This morning, speaking widely about African economies and the growth, pointing to a theme of African solutions. Does this set the tone for deliberations with the Chinese?
Well, his, of course, Natasha, was a response to President Xi Jinping, who had outlined what it is China is trying to do, how it wants to do it, and how it would like to see its partners playing their respective roles. So the person who really set the tone was, in fact, the president of China, and less so President Zuma, and less so the African Union President Robert Mugabe. But that said, President Zuma did say, in fact, implore his counterparts to say, one, we need to put an end to wars on the continent. For as long as we keep on having wars on the continent, there's no way there can be development. Also, of course, acknowledging that China has been a consistent friend, that China has put its money where its mouth is, and as a continent we should be grateful and we should embrace China and actually make sure that we make use of the advantages that this cooperation presents. But I would say that if you look at what the two presidents, the African presidents, had to say, compare that and contrast that with what President Xi Jinping had to say, I would say on a day that we are talking about ratings, President Xi Jinping really outlined the vision clearly and said all the things that I think someone like him ought to have said, and Africans didn't do that. But again, maybe the devil is, of course, in the detail. Natasha?
All right, well then let's look at this vision that the Chinese president talked about. He spoke about mapping out a common future, but as Africa's biggest trading partner, their interests have evolved, haven't they?
Yes, certainly. But as everyone in the know seems to be saying, they are skewed in China's favor, and that China is the one effectively and essentially setting the agenda. And if the speeches are anything to go by, they continued in that sort of vein, because he went into the detail, put figures on the table, spoke about how the Chinese see the skills transfer happening. He spoke about very specific projects that they would like to get involved in. He spoke about how the Chinese financial sector, the banks from China, are going to get into the continent. He spoke about how they are going to dispatch hundreds of advisors and people who have teachers, who have the technical expertise to teach African students about a whole range of things. And we didn't get any of that from the African leaders. They didn't talk about the terms. They didn't talk about the philosophical foundations that are going to underlie China's and Africa's engagement with China beyond this point. So there was a bit of a disappointment. And on the other hand, I think the Chinese president got an A+ for actually being able to outline that vision, being able to talk about the terms of engagement, and being able to talk about what they hope to get out of this relationship, and being able to talk about how he thinks or sees Africa benefiting out of this relationship. And we didn't get that from the from the African leaders.
All right, Vuyo, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. That's Vuyo Mvoko, live from the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in Sandton. Well, looking now at Parliament, it seems